The Outer Worlds is without a doubt one of the most anticipated games of the year, and we are just a week away from the official release of the game coming from Obsidian Entertainment and Private Division. And in today's video, I want to take a look at all of the information that you need to know about Outer Worlds heading into its release, and kind of a little bit of a primer before you buy the game because there is a lot to assess. Now, when I do these videos, I always like to give you guys a little bit of a background on the studio that's developing these games, and Obsidian Entertainment is a development studio that I can spend hours on, but we don't have that much time, so I'll try to give you guys a quick overview. Obsidian has been around for a very long time, going back to 2003, and they have worked on some remarkable games. The majority of you guys probably know them for their work on Fallout New Vegas that released in 2010. However, prior to that, they did do work on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, Neverwinter Nights 2, and Alpha Protocol. Alpha Protocol was a rather interesting title, a Sega-published game that kinda had some Fallout elements to it and some Mass Effect elements going on for it. A lot of decision making. Wasn't as good as the aforementioned games, but it was a decent little title. And again, I think the majority of people that know of Obsidian know them for Fallout New Vegas. That's generally the game they're associated with. They've worked on other games, of course, after that as well. But Fallout New Vegas is a tremendous game that is highly regarded upon to this day, so I can see why gamers think so highly of it. Also did work on Dungeon Siege 3, South Park The Stick of Truth, which I think is a phenomenal game, going back prior to the release of The Stick of Truth. If you were to tell me the South Park IP and a traditional turn-based RPG were coming together in the form of a video game, I would have told you that you were crazy and there's no way it could be good. And yeah, it wasn't good. It was absolutely excellent. The Stick of Truth was a phenomenal game, and Obsidian absolutely made me eat crow on that. They also did Pillars of Eternity, another phenomenal RPG, a game that I am very high on and always recommend. They did Tyranny, which only saw a PC release, Pillars of Eternity 2, which is coming to PlayStation 4 later this year, and of course, Outer Worlds is their next game. So you can see they have a star-studded lineup of games that they've worked on. Unfortunately, for those of you guys that are exclusively PlayStation gamers, you'll want to know that Obsidian has been acquired by Xbox Game Studios, so it looks like that Outer Worlds is going to be their final game that releases on the PlayStation 4. So yes, little bit of a bummer there. However, what a way to go out, because the Outer Worlds is a big budget title, and it's great to see that they did have the leeway to do one final game before they officially merge with Microsoft. And you know what? I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I don't want to get too into that. Obsidian is a fantastic studio, but let's also now talk about the Outer Worlds itself. What do you need to know about this game? Well, it's a brand new single-player sci-fi RPG. As you explore a space colony, the character you decide to become will determine how this player-driven story unfolds in the corporate equation for the colony. You are the unplanned variable. Now, yes, this is very much a decision-driven game. Every time you play this game, it's gonna be a little bit different. Every time you do a new playthrough or whatever the case may be, the game is gonna be altered greatly based on the decisions you make and the different choices you make in how to play the game. And while it's been confirmed that from a content standpoint, this isn't going to be the lengthiest open world RPG in the world, I mean, it'll still probably take 40 to 50 hours, it's going to be an RPG with a ton of replayability, and that is really the imperative to this game, that you're going to be able to play it over and over again, and it's going to feel like a fresh experience every time, and I think that is quite enticing. As far as the story itself, you're lost in transit while on a colonist ship bound for the furthest edge of the galaxy. You will awake decades later only to find yourself in the midst of a deep conspiracy threatening to destroy the colony. As you explore the furthest reaches of space and encounter various factions, all vying for power, the character you decide to become will determine how this player-driven story unfolds. Again, in the corporate equation for the colony, you are this unplanned variable, and the variable can go a variety of different ways depending on how you form your characters and which decision you make. Again, this is a player-driven story RPG, very much in line with the typical Obsidian game and their tradition. How you approach the Outer Worlds is up to you. Your choices affect not only the way the story develops, but your character build, companion stories, and endgame scenarios, and of course from a gameplay standpoint as well. Depending on how you develop your character, it'll alter from that standpoint as well. So that's going back to this imperative of the game being incredibly replayable. You can play this game over and over again and do fresh things all the time. You can be flawed, but in a good way. New to the Outer World is the idea of flaws. A compelling hero is made by flaws that carry with them. While playing the Outer Worlds, the game tracks your experience to find what you aren't particularly good at. Keep getting attacked by raptidons. Taking the Rapphobia flaw gives you the debuff while confronting the vicious creatures, but rewards you with an additional character perk immediately. This optional approach to the game helps you build the character you want while exploring the colony. As I mentioned earlier, companions is an element to the game, and leading your companions is a big element of the game. During your journey through the furthest colony, you will meet a host of characters who you'll want to join your crew. Armed with unique abilities, these companions all have their own missions, motivations, and ideals. It's up to you to help them achieve their goals or turn them to your own end. So again, this is another part of the game that is very choice and player driven. How you interact with companions, where you take them to the story, how you decide their story unfolds is going to lead to the game also being very, very replayable. And again, this is going to be a sizable world. While it won't have the content of maybe a Witcher 3, which spans, north of 200 hours with all the DLC, and if you try to do everything, this is a game that's replayable, and it does have a decent amount of content. The colony is at the edge of the galaxy, owned and operated by a corporate board. They control everything except for the alien monsters left behind when the terraforming of the colony's 2 planets didn't exactly go according to plan. Find your ship, build your crew, and explore the settlements, space stations, and other intriguing locations throughout the world. There's a lot to see and do, and that is one of the major elements of the game, to explore this mysterious world. And again, going back to that essential element of decision making, there's so much to the game from a decision making standpoint. Not only how you decide your character turns out, your companion characters, your character's abilities and companions also play a part directly in conversations. For example, you may have the option to lie to someone if you have enough charisma, or potentially your companion is a skilled engineer and can help dig you out of a technical discussion that is way over your head. So not only are your elements integral to the options available in the game, but also what companions you have, how your companions feel about you, and whatever the case may be. And there are a lot of layers to the game. Going back to the gameplay, depending on your character, you may opt for getting close and personal with a melee weapon, or simply value taking cover with a rifle in hand. Either way, you should take advantage of tactical time dilation, and the gameplay does look rather good if you just want to assess it as a first-person shooter. I'm not saying it's going to be the most robust first-person shooter in the world, but given that this is an RPG first, I think the gameplay that is there is quite nice. And again, going back to the content of the game, you might be wondering the contrast of the main quest versus the side quest, and this is what Charles Staples, lead designer for The Outer Worlds, said in an interview with Den of Geek. Quote, "When developing our main quest, we tried to make sure that they all support things like how does the combat player get through this, how does a dialogue player get through this, how the stealth fighter gets through this. For instance, we had one of our own people go and play the game and not fire a gun for the majority of our main quest. We made sure a player can get through it without any of the main playstyles, so really leaving it up to you. However, main quests are obviously only one element of a RPG. What is the contrast to the main quest to the side quest? Here's what he said about that. For the side quests, we were less rigid with those. Here's a side quest specifically focused on this person who wants you to go clear out a whole bunch of monsters from this area. There is really not going to be a dialogue way out of there because you can talk to the monsters in certain circumstances. It's based on the narrative of the quest we're doing. We sort of pulled back on the number of options there. So there's going to be a variety of different options when it comes to the main quest, but it actually dials into specifics when it comes to the side quests. I think that's rather interesting, and he did follow up by saying, with every quest, we would take a step back and do some data analysis to look over the entire game and see how many times we were using the engineering skill, how many times we were using lie or persuasive skills, etc. From there, we would say we're not using enough of this. Are there more places we can put this in? So it's a constant balancing act over the course of production. A rather interesting way to produce a game, but I really think that's probably one of the best ways to produce an RPG. Not only are you going to keep the main quest line open to everyone and letting them play the game however they want, to integrate that to the side quests as well, it would be a little bit difficult, and you do have to kind of dial in when it comes to that. However, they also kept this overarching mentality where they did want to keep the game balanced and use every skill set available in the game equally. So depending on what type of character you develop, every type of character is usable in the game and equally as effective, just maybe in different scenarios or whatever the case may be on that. And if you want to talk about customization, that is also a big part about your character. Basically, you get to create your character male, female, whatever personality you want. So the character isn't voice. You'll be picking responses and you'll have fully voiced responses within your campaign and other NPCs, but we wanted to make sure you got to basically create whatever character you wanted to play, whatever power fantasy you wanted to have, you get to experience that in the game. So we decided not to voice the main character just because it would stick out only to have a limited number of dialogue options to choose from. That's typically pretty reasonable when it comes to these dialogue heavy games where there are a plethora of dialogue options. games. And I want to round it out by going back to content because I feel like this is a big selling point to you guys. There are going to be larger settlements that you can expect in the game. On each world that you're going to explore, there's at least one major settlement. A big example is Monarch that was showed on the press playthrough back in July. There is Stellar Bay, which is the primary capital of the world, but there are also areas like Amber Heights and Fallbrook that are also two other hubs in the world as well. So that alone has 3 big settlements so you can explore and find quests in. And then the world of Terra 2, which is more segregated. The corporations control it more heavily, so each area is more restricted and travel between them isn't allowed. Each of those has its own set of NPCs and quest dealers. So once you assess it from a world standpoint, a lot of variety there in terms of the content available, how it's presented to the player, the visuals, and all of those elements are really neatly done by the looks of it. And I want to cap things off on this video to remember that this looks to be Obsidian's final game on the PlayStation 4 for now. It will be released on PS4, PC, and Xbox One on October 25th. A Nintendo Switch version will be coming later on, I imagine sometime in 2020, but that's really cool to see. And if you're planning on playing this game on PC or Xbox One, I want to make it doubly known that the game will be a part of the Xbox Game Pass program. So Xbox Game Pass on Xbox One is $9.99 a month. All the time they're running promotions where you can get like 2 months of Game Pass Ultimate for $2, you can get a month for $1, whatever the case may be. Game Pass is always available, pretty cheap. And then on PC, Xbox Game Pass for PC is still in its beta phase, and it's only $5 a month. And again, they're always running promotions where you can get the first 2 months of Ultimate for like $2, and you can get really great deals on that. So if you're playing on Xbox One or PC, you can essentially play this game very, very cheap, see how you like it, and you can probably just play through it. If you sign up for Game Pass Ultimate right now, 2 months for $2, that'll last you into the end of December, and you should be able to complete a good bit of the content by then. I know some of you guys are inherently adverse to signing up for subscription services, but I thought that I would let that be well known. I have a couple of friends that picked up Gears of War 5 on Xbox One for $60, and they didn't even know that Game Pass is a thing. I'm surprised that there are people out there that are still like that. They have no idea that Game Pass is a thing. They have no idea that these marquee games are added to Game Pass. They're just buying games for $60 still. And if you are open to the idea of a subscription service, getting access to all of these games for a subscription fee a month, well, it's really not a bad idea given the quality that Game Pass is getting. You've got Gears 5 in there, Outer Worlds is coming, and they've been regularly adding content, and you know, if you're buying Outer Worlds for $60, that's essentially 6 months of subscription time if you were to pay $10 a month. So if you look at it that way, that's quite good, but I do want that known. Of course, on the PlayStation 4, the only way you can play the game is by dropping your $60. It's not going to be a part of PlayStation Now or anything like that, at least not right out of the gate. So be aware of that as well. And that's going to conclude this video. I hope I was able to give you guys a general rundown of the Outer Worlds. It's a game that I'm very excited for. Obsidian is a phenomenal studio, and I think they're going to do a great job with this game. Due out October 25th on PC, Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch version coming in 2020. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.